Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. How are we getting on? Welcome to a brand new Fallout 76 camp build. So, the atomic shop this week is very Nuka Cola heavy, and whilst I didn't really feel like going for a full-on Nuka Cola build, I thought we'd lean into the colour scheme in particular, the red and white, and do something somewhat adjacent in the form of a diner build. And I am really happy with how this has come out. It's better than I could have hoped, I think. So let's have a look at where we are on the map first off. We are all the way down here, just by Watoga. Not sure why it's all in lowercase there. Pretty sure I didn't type it in lowercase. Pretty strange. But there we go, as you can see, right in the bottom right corner of the map. Just off the road there, so a reasonably decent spot. You see the town centre over there. Honestly, this place is not quite as flat as it looks. I really thought it was flatter, but as evidenced by the height I've had to lift the foundations up to here, you can see it's not quite as level as I was hoping. Still, speaking of foundations, we are starting with a 5 across and 4 back main sort of part of the build. There will be 2 more on the back here, and those are going to be a little crafting room to kind of make it somewhat functional as a camp as well. But we'll hide those around the back. So, most of the stuff I could find online about diners has a sort of metal lower half and then windows at the top. So we're going to try and recreate that, at least around the front anyway. Around the back, we'll go for the steel wall set. This is the basic vanilla one, and I've never really had the occasion to use it, but it's, as far as something that sort of suits the aesthetic we're going for, it's one of the better bets. There's nothing that's quite there. It needs to be a little more chrome related, really, from what I could see on a little Google search, but it's close enough. So, for the windows, we are going to use the rustic greenhouse walls, which are a little on the rusty side, but they do have that more rounded corners and stuff that kind of fit the vibe a little bit better. So we're going with that around the top as well, and we'll get some internal walls in. Now, to be honest, as I said before, I'm not really a fan of these vault walls. The look of them is not up to the standard of the others, really. However, for a food preparation type location, the door frame actually kind of fits the vibe about right. So that's why I picked it, and we'll wallpaper it later. So we've got what will be a bathroom on the right, and I'll make some adjustments to that space on the left there in a bit. First, I want to double side these half walls, so we've got a space for essentially a service hatch, kind of. And these things, as it turns out, are surprisingly tough. They're like 1.5 flamethrowers charges. So, yeah, I was quite surprised by that. On the other hand, once March rolls around and the Ghoul update comes along, there will be an adjustment to the Wrecking Ball perk that will allow us to destroy our building pieces with just weapons fire, so we won't have to faff around with the trap. So that will be handy come March. But for now, we'll flamethrower. There we go. With those destroyed, grab the half walls again and double side them now. Nice. And when we go to repair that, we should be able to wallpaper both sides. So, what I'm going to do here is grab the flamethrower and destroy the door frame here. As it turned out, I should have put the door on early because that needs flamethrowing as well. As we're going to put a Vault-Tec catwalk piece on the corner here. There we go, just to create that little entrance, and then we'll snap some stairs on. It didn't want to snap over the door when that was in place though, so I had to flamethrower it, and conversely, when I came to put the door on later, which I usually do last, just because they're kind of in the way when you're running around, the door wouldn't go in because the catwalk was there, so yeah, something to factor in. So a couple of adjustments to be made. I've forgotten to put the back wall on our restroom, what will become our restroom, so let's do that. There we go, sorted. Change that, whoop, wrong button. There we go, that changed over. I'm going to move this left-hand wall in a second, because I want the office for the former business to be in the back corner here. And I don't think it needs to go all the way across, it just needs to be a single foundation. The rest can go towards kitchen space. Works. Now we just need to close off this little back room that will be our nod to practicality in the form of a crafting space. There we go. So for this section on the right here, just that we're about to move towards, I'm going to make some changes here because I initially put the metal ones in here. I'm going to change it out for the vault ones because when I wallpaper it, it'll leave the door frame there and it'll match everything else. I think I forgot to change this back to this setup though at a later point. I had to remove those walls to get some of the decoration in. It was being a bit temperamental, so yeah, I think I forgot to change it in the final build, but having the door frames match was my original intention. So, we're going to get a bunch of flat roofs on here because we're going to dress up the top level. So, any roof you like will do. I went for these responders, sort of concretey ones, but it works. Now we're going to go with the old, put some bar pieces around the edge to create that kind of red and white top. You could use the sparkly one if you like. I decided to go for the Slocum's Joe one because it's kind of a bit closer to the colour scheme of the Nuka Cola stuff and everything we'll be using inside. And yeah, it works nicely. It's also slightly more beaten up, which is also in keeping with the rest of the look of this place. So what we're going to do is very carefully use the seam of this roof here, and this one on the front's just here to give me something to stand on, as a guideline, and then we'll extend it all the way around. And this needs to be very, very accurate, because the further you go along the line, if it's not accurate, the wider the error becomes. If you're out by a hair's breadth here, by the time we get to the other end of the building, it'll be inches to a foot off the position you want it to be in when you've snapped everything together. So, a little bit of trial and error to get everything lined up. It's actually worked out okay. It only took me about 3 attempts, and I was expecting more, so that's a win. But it does require some patience to get this in exactly the right place, and taking the time to do it first is definitely the way, and then you don't get knackered up later on. Here we go. I think we're pretty much close. We'll give it a test in a second. It is a bit difficult to eyeball this. It looks like it's too far in, but we come around this side and it looks about bang on. So let's test that. Extend this out. Yeah, it's hard to see here, but it is coming in a little bit further than I want it to. So be on the safe side. We'll play around with it a bit and get that lined up. And on what was actually attempt number 3, that's about as close to perfect as I think I'm going to get. There we go. Nice. Running almost all the way around here, not around the crafting room at the back, but the rest of it looks pretty good. It does take up a chunk of the build budget putting all those pieces in though, but it adds that splash of red and white to the outside, which is otherwise challenging to do. I could have double-sided the walls out here, I suppose, but, you know, I'm quite happy with that. So, decoration is now complete. Let's have a look at the finished tour. I am quite chuffed with this. It's a little bit square, and if I were to do it again, I might sacrifice a couple of bits of decoration inside in favour of breaking up that front edge a little bit. But the Neapolitan sign went on surprisingly well and surprisingly high, and those awnings really do make a difference to how the shape of the structure feels as well, so I'm quite pleased with that. That Nuka Cola fountain is not strictly necessary, but it is the current Fallout First freebie, so I thought I'd include that and you can have a little look at it. Sort of in keeping with the build. We'll stick our head around the corner here where I have a few essentials. My weather machine and my Collectron and my Raztag field dressing station, which tucked out at the back because they're not really part of the build per se, but they are useful to have in my camp, so that's where they are. Yeah. Say, the outside is alright. I think it's close to where I would like it to be. I could do with maybe, as always, about 25% more budget, but what could you do? I suspect if I had that, I'd still want another 25%. There's a weird kind of invisible wall thing going on down there, though. Some kind of stumbling block. But yeah, as we head inside, I am so pleased with how this bit in particular looks. Happy with the whole inside, I think. But this area in particular, I think, absolutely looks spot on. If you happen to do an image search for diners, this is really close to what comes up. And I am pretty darn happy. I went for the black and white floor rather than the red and white, which I use on everything else, just because the contrast works quite nicely, I think, there. If I went red and white, I think it would be a little too monolithic in that colour scheme. And here it does give it a little bit of extra pop. I think it works well. Little gaming area at the end. Not sure that's technically traditional, but it works. For the bar area here, basically what I've done here is the merge glitch, but kind of in reverse almost. It's the same merge glitch, but instead of using the pressure plate to merge the top piece down into the bottom piece, I used the camp unit and placed the objects on top of that, because then it separates them apart. It pushes the top one up instead of sinking it down. My little, very simple restroom with some blood from a scorched attack. The scorched, for some reason, decided that was where he wanted to spawn, so what can you do? But yeah, if you use the camp unit, you can push things up rather than down, which is a helpful little trick for something like, say, this kind of counter. I'm quite happy with that. The shelves on the back there are supposed to kind of imply a little service hatch type thing. Obviously, they don't quite line up with the edge, and the wall's technically a bit higher than I'd like, and blah, 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 but it's pretty close. You get the vibe, if nothing else. Oh, also you can see the White Springs pillars on some of the corners here for the internal walls. Basically, I put those there because the join of the wall leaves a corner that is exposed on the internal space, so I had to take all the walls out, put the posts in, and I think I had to flamethrower them. I'm not so sure if I had to, but I did, in order to get the walls back in. So it was a bit of post work there, just to kind of tidy up the edges a little bit. I think it works. So this little kitchen piece slots very nicely in between the two walls there and made a nice little coffee and tea station. But, I needed something on the top there. That works. Also, you see the random junk in between in the middle there? That's the chessboard display that I've merged down. There's a little office space. It is pretty basic, but it's got the essentials. Functions as an office for the business, or would have done back pre-war. I think if I had a little bit more budget, I might have squeezed a bed in there to make a bit of a nod towards it being a camp, because there's not really anywhere else suitable to put a bed in if you were going to. But that's the one thing this place misses as a camp goes. There's a couple of workbenches I haven't used as well, actually, to be fair, but on the whole, it's pretty close, and it's more of a thematic thing than a practical thing, I think. So, yeah, kitchen looks alright. Quite happy with that. Nice central island. Some desserts ready to go out, some cooking pots and stuff. Again, more chessboards merged in to get some stuff on the side there. I've been saying for a while I wanted to do this merge trick with the Camden Park grill there, in order to get that on the top. And it does look good, that. I need a little bit more practice with it, I think. Incidentally, you can't just place the grill directly on top of the kitchen counters. For some reason it doesn't like that. I don't fully understand, but it doesn't. So you have to put them on a rug and then move the rug to the top so that everything will go there. And then you can merge the whole lot down. And I think it works quite nicely. A couple of chopping boards there. That's the meat chopping block merged into the countertop there as well. And a little pot washing station on the side. I don't very often use the meat locker. I mean, I don't actually use the fridges for their intended purpose at all. I just use them as decoration items, but I don't use this particular one very often because it's so big and the door isn't closed, but it's suitable for a professional kitchen looking place. So here is my nod towards camp practicality with a little crafting room tucked on the back. We can kind of pretend that's not there from a thematic standpoint, but it's useful to have nonetheless. We've got weapons bench, armor bench, tinker's bench and chem station in here. No power armor station and no brewing station, but otherwise we'll get by, I think. I don't tend to use those too often anyway, so it's not the end of the world. Yeah, all in all, I'm quite happy with this. It looks kind of like the staff just walked out en masse. And yeah, pretty pleased with that. If I had more budget, again, I might have put mannequins around to make it look like there were people here, but otherwise, it's not too shabby. A few lights up there. I put the benches, by the way, by that hatch, because the wall's so high, I felt like, one, the space needed something in the gap, and two, it means you can kind of step up to the shelf, the big air quotes, but yeah, it kind of makes that gap a little bit more functional. Well, that's the theory, anyway. I decided to put the stack, the pancake stack, or whatever it is, on the side there, in the steins, just because I thought if this place had maybe like that kind of pancake stack s'more thing going on, whichever it is, as a specialty dish, it would make kind of sense to have that in there. It's the only stein set that really suited the place, I felt, so sort of stretching the limits of what we have available, but quite chuffed with how this came out. This front area in particular really got the vibe I'm going for, so yeah, really, really happy with this one. Hope you guys enjoyed it as well. If you did, please do consider dropping subs and likes. I very, very much appreciate. Social media links down below if you want to check those out, and channel memberships on the blue join button. I really, really appreciate that support if you're interested in that. Very, very much helps out. Massive thank you to everyone who's done that. If you get a chance, join us for live streams as well. We are playing a whole bunch of stuff at the moment. We've just started Resident Evil 7, that's a whole thing. Good fun though, so yeah, I do hope you join us for some of that as well. For now, thank you very much for watching. I look forward to speaking to you all very, very soon.